Hi everyone, so we are in our RV storage lot again. We haven't been traveling for a few weeks and we have a few reasons for that. So
yeah, just a bunch of life things that got in the way. I meant we had to stay close to home.
Yeah. So in this video, we really want to focus in on the fact that we've had our campervan, our Roadtrek Zion campervan for 5 years now, and talk about, sort of do a little review on some of the unexpected consequences of having an RV, something that we didn't expect when we first got our campervan. So
actually, I might even call it some of the unexpected benefits of having an RV that we didn't really expect.
Yeah, we'd like to sort of focus more on the positive than the negative. And yeah, so we thought we'd chat about that. And also, maybe a lot of you are wondering about what's been happening with our RV shopping, because we have talked about going to look for our next RV. So we wanted to give you an update on that as well. So we hope you enjoy this video.
As Mickey mentioned, we've had our camper van now for 5 years, and you know, when we were looking at some of the negatives, there really aren't that many. From a camping perspective, I don't think we've ever camped anywhere that we really didn't like. I guess if we really didn't like it, we just simply didn't stay there. In the last 5 years, one thing that has changed a little is that campsites are busier than they used to be. The COVID period seemed to get a lot more people out camping, period, whether they were in tents or in RVs. So the campgrounds are certainly a little busier. So unless you're able to go on shoulder season or make sure you're not out on weekends, yeah, it's a little bit more difficult to find places. And the really popular camp spots, you know, are booked well in advance, but I don't think that's anything new. And as you've watched our videos, you know that we're often making last minute plans, and generally that works out fairly positively. You know, the only thing that I would say too, from the perspective of owning an RV that is a little negative, it's just, you know, RV dealerships are busy, so sometimes it's a lot longer to book to get in. So sometimes that's just a bit more challenging. You're waiting 4 weeks or maybe 6 weeks to get in to get something done. Some of the things that go wrong, it's just kind of annoying. Like you think it wouldn't happen, but you know, it's an RV, and I guess the sales folks would say, what do you expect when you're sort of carrying your house with you and giving it the equivalent of like an earthquake every day? So, but other than that, very positive. Mickey, I don't know if you had anything else.
Yeah, I think, you know, going back to the RV dealerships, we are concerned sometimes when we think about buying an RV, whether they will actually service that type of or brand of RV that you have. And a lot of dealers say, oh no, we don't have time to service people who haven't bought our product from us. So if you ended up buying your RV in, say, another state or another province, and you wanted to try
or even another city.
Yeah, and you wanted to try to get your RV serviced in your city, you know, maybe it's a little bit more difficult and you have to wait a little bit longer, or you have to just phone a whole bunch of RV dealerships or RV service shops like we've had to do in the past. So now that we have the negatives out of the way,
you should change clothes, take the negative clothes off, put on the positive clothes.
Put on some bright summer colors.
We noticed we're both wearing dark colors.
So we'll get to the positive outcomes of owning an RV. The first positive consequence of having an RV is really the chance to just travel. I call it on the ground, but compared to flying or driving and staying in hotels, you get to actually experience more of the local area.
I think we see a lot more of local communities when we're traveling in our van than we would if we just flew to a city. And it kind of makes sense. And even just driving, because typically, at least for us, when we drive in one of our cars, we're kind of, you know, trying to get from A to B. Whereas in our van, A to B is part of the whole reason for going most of the time. So we really, you know, we stop. I guess the term would be smell the roses. But, you know, we've stopped for places. We've pulled over along a river and had lunch, or a nice lake, and things that we probably wouldn't do if we were in a car, and certainly wouldn't do if we were just flying somewhere and then staying in a hotel. We've had the chance to get to know areas a little bit better. And also I think travel's a little slower. I mean, I know it takes us probably an extra 25% longer to go somewhere when I'm driving the van than if we were driving in our car. And that's because sometimes we take the long route and other times we just stop on the way. I mean, we just make more of a point of stopping and having lunch or popping into a winery or something along that line. So that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the nice thing too is you almost feel like you're a local in a sense, because you have to buy groceries at the places that you're at, and you're cooking your own meals. So you get to know some of the shops and markets and things like that. And if you're staying in hotels, you tend to eat out more, I think. You go to restaurants and you experience that. That's different. But in an RV, you tend to sort of, have to go and do those domestic things that you usually do when you're home.
We get to shop in Walmart in Prince George, as an example.
And then you get to visit a lot of the local little markets.
Yeah,
and those are, I think, some of the best experiences we've had. So
that's a real plus. I mean, I think another real benefit for me is we've gone a lot of places we normally wouldn't go, and we've done that not necessarily intending to go there in the first place. And an example of that for me is a couple of years ago, we kind of took a trip to follow the weather. So we went into southern Alberta. We went down to, I think it's Milk River. We found this great campground there. We went to Vulcan, Alberta. Places that weren't typically on our checklist. And when we were coming home, it was the same thing. We looked to see whether the weather was more pleasant and followed the road wherever it was going to be sunny and nice.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, the camping fees are cheaper than hotel rooms. Yeah, you still have to forfeit some of the fees, but it's not as bad if you have to cancel, like compared to a hotel or a plane fare. And yeah, so it just makes it a little bit easier to be sort of spontaneous. So I think our second point of unexpected consequences is the benefit health-wise, and we're kind of talking both physical and mental health in an RV lifestyle, I guess you can call it. One of the things that we noticed when we're at campgrounds is that you really have to walk everywhere, and walking is really one of the best forms of exercise. So if you want to go to the shower building, you have to walk quite a ways. If you want to get down to the beach, sometimes if the campground is set up high above the beach, then you have to walk down and then walk up the hill again.
Yeah, Tofino's a good example of that. You're about almost half a kilometer or so from the beach, and then you've got to drop a few hundred feet to go to the beach, and then a few hundred feet back, even if you don't go anywhere else. And I've often joked with Mickey, I sort of wish at home our bathroom was like a 5-minute walk away, so that you get a bunch of steps in just going to the bathroom and back every day.
Yeah. And
of course, we're all about hiking and paddling when we're out anyway, so we get a lot of that. But even in spots you pull in just for one night, usually we get out, we walk around. Most of the time we're fortunate enough to be in an area that's very quiet, by a river, maybe in a forest. All those things are just a way to be out and enjoying the environment.
And you can actually go for an after dinner walk too. It's like having a nice park with trails right outside your house. Those of you who like to ride your bikes, it's another great way to get exercise in as well. So
yeah, we were just talking about that because we, as you know, we don't generally, we're not cyclists, so we don't carry bikes with us, but occasionally we've thought of it. Pacific Rim National Park has a great paved trail. There's the Kettle Valley recreational trail that's very long, and a couple of parks are on that. Where Kikuli Bay has the Okanagan Rail Trail. If you're in Whistler, we have some friends in Whistler right now, and they asked us for some advice, and they're cyclists. So in Whistler, and bikes, you can go everywhere. There's a paved valley trail that takes you all over, and then there's offshoots of that. So, certainly the opportunity, if you are out camping, to be more active and stay physically fit. It's just sort of what you do when you're out there, at least what we do when we're out there.
Yeah, and in terms of mental health, I think Gordon touched on it a little bit, but just being around nature is nice. You've probably seen our videos where we sit outside in the morning when it's quiet and listen to the birds and have our morning coffee and tea. It's just really calming to be in nature, and you go to places where you can sit and watch the ocean or the forest. Or even just sitting at your campfire, really. You can just sit there and watch campfire for hours, and I don't really know how, because we don't really have the desire to watch TV or listen to music. We just kind of like sitting out there and watching the fire, and I think there's some benefit to that in terms of your mental health. So we always feel like when we get home, we feel really relaxed.
For me, it's about getting up early in the morning and being outdoors when other people aren't. So if you watch some of our videos, it's not uncommon to see me out on a lake at 4:30 in the morning or filming the sun coming up or something like that.
Yeah.
And those experiences I just can't replicate.
So carrying on, I think one of the really great points of RVing that we didn't realize is that there's a lot of flexibility and freedom in having an RV. If you guys have seen our videos before, we tend to sort of like to do things spontaneously, and
left or right, I don't know.
Yeah, and we don't want to make a lot of reservations in advance, and it's kind of part of the, I guess, adventurous spirit. And we always end up being able to get something. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, and we do get a little stressed at times. We had a situation on Vancouver Island where we drove around to so many places and we couldn't find a spot because it was it was during the peak season, during the summer. But ultimately, we did end up being able to get.
Yeah, we got one of our nicest spots at a free BC Hydro campground. So.
Yeah.
Some of our viewers have said they're always surprised, like how we managed to get by without, sort of long-term planning. And there's usually somewhere we can go, and we just, again, we just have to be careful that if we're going to go somewhere, like a Jasper or Banff and want to go to the main campsites, then we're going to have a reservation if it's summer season. On the other hand, using that example, there's an awful lot of more rustic campsites between Jasper and Banff that are like great to stay in and are never that busy. So we choose often to go to not necessarily the if I can use the term best spots, but we've got a lot of spots that we actually probably enjoy even more than the best spots because they're not so busy, and there's usually hiking or paddling or something close at hand. So that's worked out well. Yeah,
no, for sure. Gordon might not agree with me, but I think I learned quite a bit about systems too, and being an RVer. I mean, when we first decided to buy an RV, we knew nothing about how the power system works, how the plumbing works, and because just the nature of carrying your home with you, you have to learn a little bit more about the terminology and about how systems work. And sometimes you have to work with your dealer or service department.
Sometimes you have to tell your service department how it's supposed to work.
And you end up doing a lot more research than you would, because in a house you can just simply pick up the phone and call the plumber or the electrician, and it's pretty straightforward. And even with your personal cars, you can just take it to the dealer and it's fairly simple. But when you have both your vehicle and your RV, it can get a little bit complicated sometimes, and it's good to brush up on some of the knowledge.
I probably do disagree with Mickey, but it's a matter of magnitude. So I certainly have learned a lot more about how the battery systems work and how, we've done some minor repairs on the van because you just sort of have to. And thankfully there's YouTube, which explains a lot of things. Plus there's a Facebook page for van owners like ours that has an incredible amount of great information. I think the difference is when I look, say, for example, at that Facebook page, and I look at what some of the individuals do there, and then I look at what we do, and their knowledge and experience is just so much greater. There are some people on the Zion and Simplicity Facebook page that are like Jedi Knights when it comes to knowing how to repair your van. And so, I've learned a lot, but there's just so much more that you could do if you wanted to.
Yeah, and I think, as a person, everybody has different focuses in life, and I think we tend to sort of be more like, where can we go? Which mountain can we climb? That kind of thing.
I'd rather be out paddling.
Versus, okay, let's spend a couple of days fixing something. And some people love doing that. So, kudos to you guys for wanting to do that.
And kudos for sharing it either on Facebook pages or on
YouTube,
because it is really helpful.
Okay, and last but not least, certainly not the least, is I think one of the things that we really didn't expect is to meet so many wonderful people on the road. RVers are, as a group, just really, we're all like-minded people and really super nice and helpful and get along so well.
Well, yeah, we've had some interesting conversations just standing in someone's campsite and talking about their dog or something. Even here in the storage lot, I've probably helped, 3 or 4 different individuals with their campers or trailers where they've just needed a hand doing some repair work. So, that's been kind of fun. The other part of this too is when we bought the RV, we never really thought we'd start a small YouTube channel. And so there's a lot of folks that we've actually, either started camping with because they followed our channel, or, I'd call friends even though we've never actually met. Steve and Darlene, Transporter, that's their Zion SRT. They've waved to us as they've driven by, and we correspond regularly, and we consider them friends, but we've never met.
They're like pen pals.
And, there's Deb and Mike and others that we've met on the road, and many whose names, to be honest, we've forgotten because we only, chatted to them for a few hours. And even I can remember getting out at a rest stop and stretching, and somebody came up and they said, "Hey, you're Gordon, right?" And so Mickey must be the person in the car. And I said, "Yeah," or in the van. Yeah, that's been a lot of fun.
I'm always amazed how much there is to talk about with other RVers. It could be about travel, it could be about our rigs, but there's just a ton of things, and you never seem to have enough time for a conversation.
People are really good about sharing, their experiences, generally all positive, where they've camped. When we were camping in northern BC and we talked to other people that were on the same route, they were, a number of them shared some ideas about where we should camp, some good and bad points about particular sites, and what we do, but we do it we do it often on this channel, but they share that, and that's been a really positive experience. And not usually, traveling otherwise, I don't think we've ever had that kind of exposure to as many individuals, so that's been very positive.
So absolutely, just the opportunity to meet other people, like-minded people, this is a great way to do it. And we were talking about maybe changing our RV or getting a new one, and I promise that we talk about that.
We've always liked small trailers, and we've been kind of fans of truck campers, and of course we like Class B vans, and we've been considering some small Class C's, something like the Coachman XG21XG, I think, or maybe a Winnebago Echo. So those are, sometimes people call them B pluses, but they're really just small Class C RVs. And, I think the more we've looked for other RVs, the more we've actually kind of liked our van. And I would say, in part just because of its mobility, we can, turn it around on a road. We can go so many places. For our style of camping, it seems to work really well. And just the mobility and to be able to pull in some space in a campground really quickly and then leave. So we've spending a lot of our time looking again a bit more at Class B vans, but with a different floor plan. A lot of people like the Roadtrek vans because you have the ability to make a giant bed in the back. As you know, in this van, we could turn this bed into a king-size bed, and then you spend most of your time outside anyway. We would probably like a floor plan where there was a sort of a small table at the front. Maybe the bed wouldn't be as big, a small table where we could do some work or sit down and have a coffee at the front. And 2 RVs that we've looked at that are similar to that. One is the panoramic RV. Very nice fit and finish, feels sort of European. Very similar specs to what we have in this van in terms of battery capacity.
It's also a ProMaster van.
Yeah, it's also a ProMaster van, and we really quite like it. They're a small RV manufacturer in Canada, though they're now opening an American location as well in California. And then the other one we've seen is the Airstream Range
Line.
I keep calling it rangefinder.
Yeah.
and again, very similar floor plan. They have has a little seating area in the front. In both the panoramic and on the range line, the back area has a little bit higher bed, and the bed folds up sideways if you want. So if you did want to bring in things that are a little bigger, you can do so. So those are 2 that we've looked at. And in terms of the negative thing, I think panoramic, generally, we really quite liked it. It's pretty much the same as our Roadtrek, so it has the same configuration, propane heating, furnace. Actually, I think it's a Truma-based furnace, so it's quieter, which would be nice. I'd say the only negative thing when I've looked at that is its black tank is a little lower than I'm comfortable with, but that's probably okay. When we looked at the Rangeline Airstream, very similar. Maybe the fit and finish isn't quite at the same level, but I actually kind of like that. And the only negative thing there is that the lithium batteries, they had one battery which is 270 amps, which is less than we have now. We would probably always like to have 400 amps. And it has a generator, and there's nothing wrong with the generator. It's just it's underneath the van, so it's just not a great place to have it. You know, I wish it had 400 amps of lithium, and I prefer not to have the generator. So
yeah, so I think the reason why we're hesitating is because we have a lot in this van, and a lot of the other manufacturers don't quite have basically the power level. I guess that's the main thing. And the underhood generator, which we find really useful. You don't have to worry about generator hours and things like that, because you can just charge up really quickly when you're driving. And we've got lots of lithium power. Really hard to find equivalent in that respect for us, and that's why we haven't really decided to go for a new RV yet.
And I think the other issue is just vans are really expensive. The good news is when we trade in this van, it looks like from some quotes I've had, we'll get what we paid or maybe a little more than we paid for it 5 years ago. The bad news is to buy a new van, they're 40%, 50% more expensive than they were when we bought our van. So it's no matter what we do, we end up having to trade up. One other RV that we've looked at is a small Class C, the Winnebago Echo. The newer Echo actually I think comes with two 320 amp batteries, or at least you can option it that way. You can either have one large battery and a generator, or you can have two of the larger batteries. So something we consider, but it's just so expensive. It would be probably close to our van and buying it once again in terms of cost. So that's just a lot to think to sink into an RV, I think.
Yeah.
And smaller trailers are still appealing.
So in the meantime, we've given some thought to maybe changing our RV a little bit. The only thing we probably want to put in is maybe a table, and we could probably solve that problem with just putting a lagoon table back here. So,
yeah, that would work. Yeah. And I've given some thought to, had conversations with the battery manufacturers, K2S or KS2s, and we could even upgrade our lithiums to some new lithiums, and 300 amp lithium battery, so we'd have 600, which actually I doubt we would do. Some people have, but I just don't think we need to have that much in the way of lithium. Yeah. So we're still looking. I doubt we'd see any kind of change until probably the fall at the earliest, but we'll see. We'll see.
So we'll keep you posted. Okay, so that's kind of our review of 5 years with our Roadtrek Zion camper van. Hope you found this video enjoyable, maybe useful. And give us some thoughts as well on what you think in terms of what you enjoy most about RVing.
Yeah, in the comments, maybe share what your experiences have been. I know some of our viewers have had RVs of different types for many years. Yeah, we've really enjoyed, I think, the last 5 years. There's been a lot of positive things, and as Mickey said, a lot of things that we never really expected, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, I think we turned out to be more adventurous than we really thought we were.
We've seen a lot of great places, and that I think is the best thing throughout BC and Alberta, which we probably wouldn't have done if we didn't have an RV.
Absolutely. Okay, so we'll be probably packing up soon to travel, so you see some more travel videos again coming up.
Hopefully the day this is released, we're going to be on the road. So.
Yeah, so if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done so already. And Finch, our cat,
he's at home.
Yeah, so he's at home. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time.